down. I have told everybody that I'm going to be busy for the next 3 hours. So you have me for the next 3 hours. Um, we're gonna just to kind of give you a brief summary of what we're gonna do is we're gonna come in. I've got just like a 10 slide PowerPoint to kind of tell you a little bit about myself, a little bit about where I started with disconnected mapping. Um, to kind of give you where I've come to CarryMaps. Now, I don't only use CarryMaps. I use AGOL, I use Explorer, I use a facet of things, but CarryMap is kind of like my I hate to phrase the term, but one of my professors did it one time, the poor man's GIS. And a lot of us work with constraints with IT and stuff like that. So we can't always throw everything up on the web, and we're not always in areas that are really connected. So let me move some stuff around here on some screens, and I will go ahead and kick this off real quick by let's share. And hopefully this won't crash like it did last night when I started running 15 different things. Here we go. And we can share screen one. All right, how does that look for everybody? Good. So like I said, my name's Scott Trapolino. I know most of you are, well, a good portion of you we've met before. I do love coming out to Colorado. Eventually I would like to live out there, but for now I'm doing the good work I can here in Mississippi and sharing GIS technologies with people who normally can't afford it, less fortunate counties that can't even really afford the software. So that's where CarryMap comes into play. I'm going to kind of talk you through some of the solutions that I have found for CarryMap, and maybe there's some solutions that you can use. And then by the end of this 3 hours, you should be able to pull this in, use the tool, create a few quick maps. And this is how I did it. I got the free license for 14 days in 2014, 2015, which was the very first CarryMap version. And I had come off some other softwares. There we go. So just to give you a little bit of background for me to know kind of where I'm coming from, I was a GIS instructor for Delta State University for about 4 years, from 2005 to end of 2005 to 2010. So right after Katrina, I had a big issue as a GIS instructor. We were making maps for not just emergency response, but for search and rescue and stuff like that. And it was a huge disconnect between what I knew from a technology standpoint and a geographer and what first responders were needing in the field. So we were doing paper maps at this time. We weren't even doing AGOL. It was not even up and running in our minds. So after it all happened, I came back to my director and he said, man, I've got to figure out a way to bridge the gap between my knowledge and their knowledge, these first responders. And he said, well, hey, I'm I'm chief on a volunteer fire department. Why don't you come join with us? So I said, okay, awesome. I said, let's go ahead and do this. I joined. And ever since then, I've been a firefighter. I've been a full-time paid firefighter. Before I hold the rank of a captain right now at the volunteer department that I work with right now. We're half paid, half volunteer, but we're in a very, very rural area, but we're also in a high growth region. So that kind of stemmed some of the leading up to CarryMap. From that, after I was a GIS instructor, I also have a degree in public administration. So I went to GIS and do GIS for local government. And I started with DeSoto County, which is one of the largest counties in the state of Mississippi. And I just lucked out. They had a server license, they had all kinds of stuff, and they weren't even using any of it. They had been paying for it for 10 years and never implemented it. So I got to break it, rebuild it, break it, rebuild it again. And it really gave me a good basis on, do I really like to drink the Kool-Aid from Esri, or what else is out there for me to be able to reach, give people the stuff they need in the field and be able to communicate with different, not just different organizations, different communities, different departments. And so what I've realized is, through outreach, doing knowledge transfer and outreach is kind of where I came from. So paper or plastic is kind of like my joke. When I first started out, I was like, all right, so we needed to create these maps for first responders, not just first responders, but utility workers and stuff that didn't have anything in the field. So we had DS map book way back in the day. And I don't know really how much, I completely forgot. I know some of you, but I don't know all of you. So can we kind of work around and find out what your level of GIS is? So I'm not touching on stuff that might bore you, and we're actually digging into some good stuff. Pete, you want to go ahead and start it off, Pete, and we can just kind of go around, or Deb, either or, and we can just work around. I know Jeannie, I know Rich, Deb, I've met Mary. Just kind of give, I guess, your level of GIS and experience, how many years you've had. And so that way we're all on the same playing field, and we know I'm not, I hate to say dumbing it down too much or simplifying stuff that we can actually really dig into, because I want everybody to get a lot out of this.
Sure, I don't mind starting it all, Scott. I think I know a lot of the people on here, but not everybody. So my level of GIS, I run my own company. I manage a 6-county-wide quasi-governmental entity. I won't say I'm an advanced GIS person, because I do very little, if any, programming, Python stuff. And I think that's kind of what separates the competent to the advanced level. But that's me. And so I see Deb is next on the list. I'm just looking at my list of participants. Deb, why don't you tell us about yourself?
Sure. I'm a GIS developer for the city of Thornton. I've been there 22 years. I've been doing GIS since about 1988, when a geology professor at the South Dakota School of Mines handed me ArcInfo and said, we have this stuff, but we don't really know anything about it. So here, figure it out. And I did that until I moved to Alabama and got my degree in geography. And I followed my husband kind of around the country for a few years. And I've been, like I said, I've been at Thornton 22 years. I work for the infrastructure department. So public works, I do utilities, trash, snow routes, all that kind of stuff. Next.
Okay, I'll go. So my name is Jeannie, and I'm sorry that my camera won't turn on, but I thought I'd be smart and use my federal laptop. And because this is a web application, it said no. But I do know a lot of you guys here, so it's really good to see all of you. And I'm a federal contractor. I work with the BLM. I work with the BIA. And the reason that I wanted to take this course is because I'm in charge of nobody but everything at the same time. And so we're looking for products like this that we can use in the field, because with the Bureau of Indian Affairs, everything is very rural, and not everybody is a GIS person nor tech savvy. And so we need stuff for them to start tracking these parcels accurately, because everyone's doing it a different way. And so that's why I'm here this morning.
Thank you. How about WRK?
Hi there, that's Wayne Kemp. I live up in Evergreen, Colorado, and I'm an independent GIS person working mainly with geological applications. And I just wanted to see how the phone works, basically, because I'm not really a smartphone guru at all. So it would be helpful to add a few new tricks to the old bag, you know. I've been in GIS stuff since probably the late 1990s. And I currently use just the desktop ArcGIS. That's my main package. And I also use Global Mapper and AutoCAD Map. So I'm just here to learn. And I have not installed the software, so I just may sit and listen for a while.
Well, thank you for coming in today.
Yep.
Rich, you're next.
Hey guys, it's Rich Chamberlain. Many of you guys know me. I've been doing GIS for 24, 25 years. The last 20 at AECOM or predecessor companies here in Denver. I'm kind of like Pete. I'm maybe a power user. I don't do a lot of coding. Mostly get in there and mess around with Python and see what I can break or fix or what have you. But I do a lot of one of the big things that I really enjoy doing and doing more and more of is setting up our field teams to collect data in all over really, and it's usually out here remote locations. And so right now we use Collector and Survey 123 with the AGO set up through our portal or regular AGO. But I'm always looking for new tricks, kind of like Wayne, and new capabilities. And I'm helping Pete to run things kind of behind the scenes a little bit today and tomorrow too. So hanging in there. I am, and I haven't installed the software either. So I'm just going to kind of listen and, have fun. So that's it for me, I think. Yep.
Thank you, Rich.
Yep.
Amber, can you unmute and
Yep, my name is Amber and I work for Dolores County. I've been here for about 10 years and I'm in charge of addressing and road centerline files. I have all work-related GIS experience, no education behind me. I just know the basics of GIS and I use ArcGIS desktop, Esri. And I have used CarryMap here in Dolores County. We are very rural. I do like CarryMap from what I've used it. It comes in handy because our area is very geographic and we don't have cell phone service in most areas of the county. So CarryMap on the phone works really good when you need to know exactly where you are. So I like it and I'm just here to learn as much as I can.
great, Amber. Thank you for coming to the training today.
Thank you.
Thank you. Gabriela?
Hello. Hi, everybody. I am Gabriela Gonzalez. I am relatively new to this, a new member. So I talked with Rich Chambeli. I don't remember the last name, Rich, sorry, 1 month ago. And I know about GIS Colorado because I recently graduated last year from CU Denver in geography and geospatial science. I am the relative new with the GIS world. I just started working with GIS in 2016 when I went to CU Denver to study the GIS certificate. So basically, maybe you guys have a really long experience with GIS and the GIS world, but I am very interested in learning everything about mobile apps and whatever is there. And I have a background in civil engineering. I was working in Peru before I moved to Denver. My husband is an American, but we met in Peru. I was working there in mines and petroleum operation as a civil engineer and environmental and engineering projects. So yeah, so my experience in GIS is only 4 years between my studies and my internships and work. So thank you.
Thank you, and thanks for joining us for the training today. All right, Mary, I think you're next.
Yes. Hi. Yeah, I've been involved in GIS since the last century. Been at it for a little while. And we are an Esri shop. And so I know all of those tools and try to keep following them and see what's good about them and what's not. And I'm always amazed when I hear about something else. Like I've heard about CarryMaps, but have never used it. And to make something simple for our users is always nice. And I want to just get exposure to that. I agree, GeoPDFs are wonderful. And sometimes a simple solution is what our users need. And to be able to support that would be awesome. So I'm here to learn about it. The late Amber at Dolores County said, we have a lot of offline areas, a lot of rural areas. As you guys remember when we were at Redstone, there wasn't cell service. So, you know, being able to take a map disconnected in the field and actually find where you are and do some data collection would be great. So thank you.
Well, thank you, and thanks for joining us today. Montezuma County, which I have a feeling might be Rachel and
Doug.
Doug. Thanks. Well, why don't you tell us something about yourselves and your level of expertise and whatnot, so Scott can address people accordingly.
Uh-oh, Rachel's got to act it out.
She got what?
We can't hear them, so she has to act it out.
Rachel, can you hear us?
No.
Okay, well, I think that's covered everybody.
First word.
There we go.
Okay, there we go.
Okay, yeah, this is Doug. I've been involved in GIS since the early 90s and started with the Park Service and like Scott got out of it a little bit and then got back into it working with City Cortez and Montezuma County now and we're blessed with a really good program, server license and all the tools that we need and like most folks we do broach programming when we need to, but we're not programmers per se. I would say with CarryMap, my experience, we had one of our fire chiefs come to us about 5 years ago, and they wanted to GPS their fire hydrants because we didn't have that data, and he wanted to be proactive in their district. And it worked really well for that and was able to create a simple little, I believe it was a shapefile export that we could import into our system. And since then, it was an idea of mine that we could create and publish these maps, get them out into emergency service vehicles that they could utilize when they're in service or not in service. And we never fully realized that. That's kind of why I'm excited about this today. And how somehow we could automate a process of pushing those updated maps out to all the emergency folks to really get this going. Rachel?
Okay, I'm Rachel Medina. I'm also a GIS Colorado board member, but my term is about to end. So anyone willing to take my place, please nominate yourself. I've been in GIS for only the last like 7 years. This is my second and well, really my first full-time job in GIS. And like Doug said, we're mostly users. I would like to learn more about the programming and development side of it, but I also, want to learn just all the different mapping tools so that we can provide these services for people who aren't as tech savvy or GIS users. So thanks, Scott.
Well, Doug and Rachel, thank you guys so very much for joining us today. And with that, I don't think I missed anybody.
No, I think we're good.
I think we're good, Scott. Back to you, bud.
Awesome. Yeah, and I didn't recognize y'all, Doug and Rachel, until because I can see both of you, but I can't make out your faces. But yeah, I remember y'all from camping. So look, I was gonna just ask you, Pete, if anybody, we're not locking anybody down or muting anybody, right? We're such a small group. anybody can unmute themselves and ask questions and talk while we're going through this, right? We're good? Okay. Awesome, Pete. Thanks. But yeah, so now that I know, and I'm glad, and even Gabriela, I think you're going to be able to get a lot out of this. So now that I know, I can kind of curtail or curb what we're going to do and talk about real quick so that everybody gets a lot. So just kind of going from paper map books back in like 2005 to GeoPDFs, which Avenza PDF, I thought that was like the greatest thing since sliced bread. I went out to Esri, I met these guys. I started getting, I published with them a couple of times when we were doing GeoPDFs initially, and they were working with USGS. And I think Terrago products are great. I have a publisher license, but I don't use them anymore because of CarryMap. And the reason is they started charging people to be able to pull them up on their mobile devices. You know, and I can't ask a volunteer firefighter, or most of the time I can't ask, you know, the city I work for, or some of these smaller municipalities to pay, you know, $100 a license for somebody to be able to pull a GeoPDF up on their phone using their application. And I don't know if there's a free application out there. So if I talk about any of this, you know, we all know that there's so much stuff out there. By all means, unmute yourself and share information. So, because I mean, I've got my notepad right here to take down notes of anything that y'all have that I can go and research after we're done. But I'm going to go ahead and move forward here and just kind of give you just a little bit. So this is kind of the first thing, you know, when I first started doing addressing and first started trying to correct the addresses when I first moved to DeSoto County in 2009 and started working as a local government person. I was like, man, we don't have point addresses. So I went in and created centroids from the parcels. Y'all have done this stuff before. And I made these maps and I put them in the fire department's hands and the police officers' hands. And I wanted them to go out for me because I didn't have enough time to ride every single road in a county that has, you know, 190,000 residents. So I built this to them. I gave it to them. They went out in the field, and if they took a highlighter out with them, and the map, as you saw it back here, that was, you know, all had a white halo on the background. They would go and highlight them and field verify every single address to make sure that the tax assessor's database is right. And we all know that the tax assessor is always right, right? That was, I mean, I thought it was funny. But so the problem was some people, I couldn't get them to take it serious. And this is very light compared to what some of the police officers and firefighters did when we were trying to collect stuff. I just thought that was funny. Some of them didn't care very much and gave me really poor data. And some of them went above and beyond and drew in hydrants and collected all kinds of stuff through a paper map. Well, problem was so one of the solutions we had to run into was we have helicopter pilots, not just for search and rescue, but for the sheriff's office, for the fire department. And it's really fun flying in a helicopter. And I justified going up with them in the helicopter probably about 15 times to test different map products. I mean, who doesn't want to fly in a helicopter? And so I built them this great thing. I got them a tough book. We were using, I think GeoPDFs at the time. And did you know that you better have a solid state hard drive if you're going to mount a computer in a helicopter because of the gyration? Well, I didn't think about that. We ruined a $3,000 computer within a month. So we went from doing helicopters to we went ahead and got iPads. Has anybody ever used Bad Elf? These Bad Elves were great. We weren't looking for so much spatial accuracy, but these little Bad Elves were like $100. They now have a Bluetooth one that's $100 or close to $100. And you can connect those. They'll get you within 15 to 20 feet normally where you need to be. So in a helicopter, it was great. In a fire truck, it was great, you know. And so I just built these GeoPDFs, and I had a GeoPDF for every single fire district. Well, the problem with that was you had to switch maps. If one fire district had to go into another area, they had to pull the map up, change it in their iPad, because I couldn't export a large enough scale with a GeoPDF because we're 498 square miles is what I was working with. So let's go ahead and go. So we already know this, right? Some of us are old school. I'm sitting here looking, I think Deb's got us all beat at 88. I don't know about Pete or Rich. But this is something I go back to this all the time. And I use this slide when I was teaching Intro to GIS, but I send this to people all the time because we constantly need to ask ourselves whether we're doing disconnected mapping or anything, any kind of mapping or any kind of solution for people. We need to realize that we have to look at the constraints we have with the software and the hardware. Where does the data lie? What kind of procedures are being done right now? And what kind of people are we working with? And I'm going to talk really quiet because I have people that are right outside my door that I love them to death, but they're what I call county-fied or city-fied employees. You can build them the coolest, simplest app that would give them exactly what they need, but they're like, I'm not going to do anything above and beyond what I've already been doing and getting paid for the last 10 years or 20 years. So knowing all 5 of these really helped me come into play. So needs assessment awareness, these are things that I just kind of wanted to touch on with y'all and maybe get your insight. Maybe you can give me some other things that might need to be added to this. Is know workflows and data management for each department and their deficiencies. So I've talked to Jeannie about this before. My son thinks it's hilarious because I have multiple degrees in multiple, I mean, I have a degree in criminal justice, you know, geospatial technologies, geography. I mean, there's just a wide variety of different fields. And the reason I've done that is because once I started doing GIS, I wanted to be able to break down those communication barriers between not only first responders, but police officers. I wanted to learn what a planner does. What does a planner do? You know, what do they do all day? Do they just sit there and write reports to be read about development in a city? Or do they, you know, use GIS? How would they use GIS? So my son always tells me that I'm a jack of all trades and a master of none, which I found out is not necessarily the biggest compliment. But we kind of have to be that as GIS professionals. We have to look at everybody's job. And in some instances, we have to know how to do their job better than them to be able to provide a solution for them that they're going to be able to use. So, and this is all going to come back to CarryMaps. I've really been able to, I'm going to show you about 20 different solutions that I found using CarryMaps that were just simple solutions that I was able to find the right people who had the right hardware and software and, you know, and integrate that into their workflows where it didn't change their workflow enough that they were going to balk at it or not use it. So one thing that I can tell you right now is, and what I've learned just in the last 3 or 4 years of kind of being out on my own and working with multiple agencies is if you can illustrate to management the savings in money savings, like time or resources and how those are allocated, that's what sells anything to anybody. And I always wanted to take the grassroots movement. I'm really, really big proponent for, you know, you start at the bottom, you can get people enthused and move them up. That doesn't always work with local government. Sometimes you got to go to the top and say, hey, look, you're going to save $100,000 a year in having to locate all of your utility lines if you use this $600 application. But you're going to have to force all your employees to actually utilize this in the field. And so sometimes it has to come down from the top. So connected, disconnected solution, and how will the data be updated and maintained? That's a big issue with everything that I look at, because CarryMap's not always the best solution to update and maintain data, especially in larger data sets. So CarryMap example. So without further ado, let me go in here and switch screens on us. And I hate that I'm looking at a million different places, but I've got everything laid out. Let's go in here. I'm going to share this screen. Now I'll pull this over here. Here we go. So did anybody get a chance to look at the samples, the sample maps that I put for download? Jeannie did. By all means, if y'all want to unmute yourself, scream at me and yell at me because I hate listening to my voice nonstop. I am going to come in here and we're going to go through. I'm going to show you. Let's go ahead and start with this map right here. So this is what, can everybody see that?
Yes.
Okay, so this is the city of Hernando. I had the city mayor call me, or the past mayor. He's actually trying to become mayor again. So he was voted out because he took a picture of himself inappropriately. But now he's trying to become the mayor again. It actually made national news. Very interesting. So I came in and he's like, look, I need to know where all the voters are. And I've actually made these maps before, but he wanted to use this map in a different way. So I'm going to kind of show you, this is the interface, the CarryMap interface, if you're not familiar with it, for the new version for Windows. You have, I'm going to kind of go through these tools first, and then I'm going to show you the applications and how they're used. So you've got your location button. If you were on your laptop riding around, you can click my location. If you were hooked up to a GPS device, it was pinpoint where you are. You've got your home location. So if you throw it somewhere, you can click home, it'll go back. This is your bookmark. I think maybe I saved a bookmark. You can come up here to the top where it says CarryMap and click bookmarks. I have now the fire department's way outside. I'll have to show you that bookmarks later. Here's your zoom in and zoom out. These are super simple features that you already know about. The print feature is actually pretty nice with the new one. You can come in here and print the map with a legend. You can do, portrait, change them up. You can even come in and change the title if you want. Let's go ahead. Is that gonna? Is it all the way on the screen? I can't reach it. There we go. This is the only bad thing about working with 4 monitors, y'all, that are this large, is sometimes windows get moved. So this is a cool toolbar. You can actually change the functionality. I'll show you through CarryMap Builder. If you didn't want it to be feet, you could make it, inches, and you can change the area. And in this right here, you can add points, lines, and polygons. And I'll show you a sample of that here in a minute. Let's close this. So the search functionality, the thing, I used to like the old version of CarryMap, and Doug, you might, if you were using it a couple of years ago, you might know, you could actually set what you were searching by. But now with the new version that came out, if I search by 365, right, and hit enter, it searches by the entire database. So here's my point addresses that it was searching by. Here's my voter registration that it was searching by. So, I can click on East South Street. That's where I used to work. It's downtown Hernando. But let's close this. Here's your content. And so just to kind of, as we're zooming in, you can have features that turn on and turn off and are scale dependent. You notice all these green, red, black, and yellow dots. Well, the mayor came to me and he said, man, I don't want to stop at people's houses and talk to people that don't vote, right? So I went to the state, pulled the voter roll out, and I mapped the voter roll by when they last voted. So you can actually map them by Democrat and Republican too. I mean, it's crazy, the data that's out there that's publicly available, but this stuff right here scares people where I live, that I can put a map like this together. They're like, how do you know that I have 4 voters in my house and when they all registered to vote? So this is not something that I put out that I would want to put out on like an AGOL or something that was public facing. So that's why we use CarryMap for this. And so how he's managing his data and information, he goes around and he's meeting with each one of these people. And as he meets with somebody, he is dropping points on them. So he'll come over here and he will, am I blind? Come over here. And if he talks to somebody, he'll drop a point. And I've actually built him special geo packages, which I'll show you here shortly, where he has little drop downs, whether they want a sign in their yard, whether they have a question that he couldn't answer and he needs to get back with them, or whether or not they're going to vote for him. And it's just a little drop down box saying yes or no. And so what he does is he drops points on there, and then periodically he will come in and he will share that back with me. He'll export it out as a shapefile and actually share it back with me. The one functionality that I don't like about the about working here in this map, the desktop version, which I'm going to switch to my iPad here in a minute, is it doesn't give you an option when you create points, or I have not found the ability to like, if I were to drop a whole bunch of points here and just do the points that I can create here versus using a geo package or a form that was already created with shapefiles, it doesn't allow you to re-export that data out, or I haven't found the ability to do that. But believe it or not, CarryMap sent me an email today, which I'll forward to y'all, where they have new training videos. But the only problem is there's no talking on them. It's literally music in the background, and it's just showing somebody click on a map, which is, I guess it kind of shows you where things are, but they could have not dumbed it down so much. But yeah, so they know, he knows where to stop. There's no voters here. Yellow means that they haven't voted since between 2010 and 2015. If they're a new voter or they voted in the last election, he's definitely stopping. If they haven't voted, you know, before 2010 or since 2010, and then if they're black, that means the dot, that means they are a registered voter, but they've never voted. But you can click on these voters and pull up the name, right? So how many voters are in this house, right? You've got, so I got Diane and Preston and Nicole and Timothy. You got 4 voters in this house. You definitely need to knock on this door and talk to some people. And you can almost gauge their age by looking at when they registered to vote. So you can figure out who's the mom and dad, or maybe the grandma and grandpa. I don't know. I've had fun playing with this information. This is one of the maps that I've built. This is a cool map to build, especially if you work for local government, guys. You can build this map super fast, spin it up and give it to all your elected officials that you like. Keyword, elected officials that you like, or that you want to see back in office. But super easy, fast map to make. Trying to think if there are any more options. I'm going to show you a lot more about this when we actually go into building the map. Let's go to some of these other maps real quick and look. This is a map that I made for Prentiss County administration. So the cool thing about CarryMap that I didn't necessarily have with Tergo with the GeoPDF is I can integrate imagery, right? So this map though, this CarryMap is an entire gig. It's 972 megs. But this is the great thing that I really have found out about this is I have probably 6 gigabytes of data, raster and vector data within this map, and it compressed it down to 972 megs. That's phenomenal in my eyes, because now I can come in and search by, let's just go 850 and see if there's an address. Here we go, 850 145, Highway 145. I'm going to zoom in. And this map is actually being used in the county administration office for them to make decisions. There's a whole bunch of layers in here, and I'll show you here in just a second. So it zooms to it. They can click on it and pull up the parcel information, parcel ID, whether, you know, improvement value, total value, land descriptions, and it even goes back to the DWG where it was created. Let's go over to content, right? You can even, so now I can come in here and I can turn on their 2018 6-inch imagery. And this is all static. Like if I had this on my iPad and was completely disconnected, I would be able to use this. And this is how I actually, I'm going to show you here when I show you on the iPad, I'm going to show you, this is how I collect point address data for different municipalities. I love it that the symbology remains the same, because you can't even get this out of AGOL right now unless you have a server and you can serve up these features as a feature service, or these layers as a feature service. But I mean, it's streamlined, it moves super fast. The funny thing is, it works better on my iPad Pro than it does on my computer. My computer will end up locking up.
Scott, you
Hey,
have a
Scott.
question in the chat room.
Go ahead. Yeah, I'm not looking at the chat, so by all means, Pete, stop me, or
Sure.
Rich, either one of y'all.
So, Doug and Rachel want to know if the search tool searches through every attribute of every layer.
No, it doesn't. You actually customize, and that's what we're going to show. So the next step here at 11, we're going to start, or not 11, my time, 10 your time. I'm hoping to get done showing you these apps, and then I'm going to show you how to customize the search capabilities. So I can type in, so I typed in 850, and I tell my first responders that this is, I really built this for them because I don't want them to have to type in 850 Fernwood Drive on their phone using this CarryMap app. I want them to do this as fast and efficient as possible. So if you type in 850, it automatically gives you every address that starts with 850. You notice that also there must be an 850 somewhere here in this data set for Boonville. Let's see, 850. It searches every layer, and that was what I was talking about earlier, is kind of the downside. But if I didn't want it to search these layers, I could turn them off. There's got to be a number somewhere in here. Here, 850. It identified that number right there, and it automatically pulled it up. But the cool thing about this is it would pull up, if there was a county road 850, it would show roads. See, underneath it, it'll show point addresses, parcels, roads. It'll search by any layer that you have visible. So if you come back here, you know, let's go ahead and zoom out. Let's turn off the imagery. I even have the digital elevation model in here as well. So that's why this is so big. They can come out here and turn on their dim, and then they can come back and turn on their, I mean, this is a lot of layers, but it allows them to look and see if somebody's building in a flood zone or adjacent to flood zone. They've got, you know, supervisor districts, major and minor waterways, and all this stuff turns on and off super fast.
Mary has a question. She
What you
wants to know, how does the labeling work? Is it in a fixed location like a annotation class?
All of them actually work interactively. So if you notice, as I zoom into a road, you know, I've got the labels set on top of the points, but watch, as I move, the labels move as well. And you don't have to set that. And that's what I love about this versus like Terrago or you know, GeoPDF. It's not interactive as this. And this does work and have the same functionality that that you have in ArcExplorer. I don't know if any of y'all are familiar using ArcExplorer. You can use that in an offline version. The only issue with using ArcExplorer is you don't have some of the functionality of being able to collect data and bring that back in, and some of the size limitations. It doesn't have the compression ability that this has, as far as throwing in imagery and stuff like that. But here, I'll show you something that's actually pretty cool.
Thanks, Scott. That's that whole labeling stuff. That's pretty cool.
Dude, when I saw this, my mouth dropped open. I was like, this is it. It looks and feels, and I can give this to anybody for free. I can put this on 100 computers. And so all I do, I'll give you my workflow real quick. So when I build a new map, right? So I already have this MXD built. All I'm doing is they are editing the point addresses, street center lines, and parcel data. And when they update those, they're updating the database that I built for them. I just take that database, I replace it with the existing database that I have in place. I re-export the map because all of my settings are saved as CarryMap. And then I put it on a link and I send the link out to all the employees in the entire county and all the cities. They download it and they have all the information updated instantly. And it's on all of their computers. And if internet goes down, like you see Jumper Town right here, this is very rural town, and so is Marietta. And so both of these places, they don't even have internet service in a lot of areas. So their internet goes down all the time. It's super spotty. They might get 8 to 12 megs download speed, right? And it's just not feasible for them to have an online application.
So,
You know, they type in an address and 20 minutes later it comes up.
for the updating, so the guys in the field, they have to actually send you the database back to you with their edits.
Yeah, so they're actually not, they bought into, and this is the reason we built the company that we have, Everything is Somewhere, is to train people how to do GIS on their own. So they don't necessarily have the technology or the license to do the CarryMap, but what they did is they did buy an ArcMap license, and I did put them through training at Mississippi State University. So now they're updating and maintaining their own point addresses, their own street center lines. I'm super proud of these guys. And it was really a clerk. One of the clerks, the lady that worked in the 911 office, said, I really want to learn this. I think this is going to be super valuable for our county. And she just stepped up and she calls me every now and then and asks me questions, but I built the database for her and I kind of trained her on how to update stuff and what to look for when she's issuing addresses and whatnot. She does it now and just sends me the data, and I don't even have to charge them. Because I mean, it takes me less than 10 minutes to export this thing out and send it back to them. I just can't justify billing somebody for 15 minutes of my time. I mean, I guess I could, but these people are super rural, and you know,
You'll never make a good lawyer.
I've actually mapped. Yeah, I would never make a good lawyer. I'd never look. My business partners absolutely hate that I just give stuff away all day, but I could care less. It's fun. But so yeah, I send them a new map. This map has not been updated since 2019. So this is the cool part, right? So if they do have connectivity, like here's your high hazard dams, right? I mapped out all their high hazard dams. They can click on any high hazard dam in their emergency office and immediately click. I put all the links to the state website, especially with like hazardous materials and stuff. And now this is at the state website through DEQ. They click on it, and if they have internet, they're pulling up the emergency evacuation plan. You know? Same thing with bridges. When they do their bridge assessments, we actually did hydrants, we did mile markers on the Natchez Trace. So they constantly have wrecks out here on the Natchez Trace, but that's federal, right? So sometimes they have to go out here and help respond. And there's only 2 access points right here and right here to this entire stretch. And so they need to know, they never knew where the mile markers were. So somebody would call in and say, hey, I'm at mile marker 286. They would come up here to respond, and they should have been getting on right here, or vice versa. But yeah, they've got fire stations, EMS stations, anything you can think of. This map's just kind of a catch-all, what we call a kitchen sink app. Let me show you. Here we go. So where this really comes in handy, say you're a super connected city, Deb, like Thornton, right? Say you've got an EF3 tornado that rolls through the middle of your town, wipes out 3 cell towers, right? So now you've got an area where you don't have any cell service. You've got officers who are trying to patrol these areas where you have houses where there's looting, where people are coming in. I mean, I hate to say that it happens at the worst time for people, but I've seen it happen many times where people are coming in, stealing people's stuff, rummaging through things. So we had to have a quick app that showed all the officers. They didn't have any self-service out in the county here, where the damage was, where there were damaged houses. And we put this together the night of the tornado when it rolled through, just so that the officers could know exactly where to patrol, where the damage was, so that nobody would loot, you know, these people's houses who were just completely displaced. You know, in every single house, you can click on the house and it gives you the damage. As people were calling it in, we were actually adding it to the map, and then I would send out a new update to them, and they would come in to headquarters, which we had was right here, and they would come in and actually upload the new map and go back out in the field. We actually, I had it to where they could come in, and I just had a QR code sitting on the door so they wouldn't come in and bug me anymore. They'd come up with their phone and scan the QR code, and it would automatically give them the download it, and it would replace the old map. And I just dated each map by the time. So that was a cool scenario. Let's go. Let's go here. I like this one. So do any of you who work for a municipality manage cemeteries? So
Nope.
God bless you. Because Lord knows, this is the worst part of my job, or it's the part I don't like the most. But I have to actually help manage these cemeteries and go out and mark graves. So I built this app to where I could walk out there and actually put me close to wherever the grave is, and I can search by the grave. It tells me if somebody's in there. I guess this last year I've done the weirdest thing ever. You have to probe graves. And that means you get this big rod and you stick it in the ground until you're knocking on it. I'm like, oh, hello, Miss Johnson. I'm sorry. And move over 6 inches or 3 inches and probe again, because you have to set, like, so part of my job here with the city of Olive Branch is I go out and assist the clerks in probing the grave site so that we can actually make sure the person's buried where they're supposed to be buried. Very interesting, to say the least. You know, the things that GIS professionals have to do to keep a job. Here, let's go. We did the voter one. So here's, you know what? I think it would be easier. Let me show you how the functionality of this works on, it's 1058. Yeah, let me show you. So this is I'll show you this one on the screen here because it's going to be bigger. This is the first responder app that I created probably 8 years ago, 9 years ago, and we've been using it ever since. I make it super, super simple for my guys. They can come in and type in an address. So 8193 was my old house. If you notice, every single address that has 8193 automatically pulls up. They can click on it, shows you where it is. They can see where the closest, you know, most of them can just need to know about where it is on a certain street, because most of your firefighters and first responders, we know where most of our infrastructure is, especially, you know, where our roads are and houses. But when we go outside of our district to help, we just had a huge apartment fire right here 2 days before Christmas. Like 9 families were displaced and lost their homes, but we had 9 fire stations respond to, right, actually it was that building right there where my cursor was. We had 9 fire stations respond. So each one of these colors is a different fire station's boundary, right? And then you have the municipal boundaries, South Haven, Hernando, Olive Branch, and Horn Lake. So we had 9 all respond to that one, and several of them didn't know where to go. But with the CarryMap, they were actually, it's the funny thing is I listened to the scanner and I listened to the radio, and they're like, use your map app. And I'm like, okay, that's awesome. Because some of the cities, they've switched to, they have laptops in their cars. So it can automatically tell them where to go within their city, but it does not have the unincorporated county data in it. But the neat thing is, so if I'm on the city and I'm using this app, I didn't want to have to build multiple applications for the cities. I built this for the unincorporated county because this is where the most disconnected areas are. But any one of the city guys can come in and customize the map to themselves. So if they're in Olive Branch and they're working EMS, they can turn EMS on, and you notice all the EMS layers are there. If they're working fire, they can turn on fire. And if they click on one of these areas, it will automatically tell them, who's supposed to respond. So station 4, station 5, station 2, go ahead.
We've got a couple questions. From Doug and Rachel, do you work with dispatch as well as the first responders?
Mm-hmm. Okay, so this map is a mirror of the dispatch map for the entire county. So the dispatch data, I update this every time dispatch gets updated in their system. And I'm going to kind of show you that here shortly.
Okay. And then another question from Mary is, does CarryMap basically replace the need for printed public safety map books?
Pretty much. I have not printed a public safety map book for this county, which has close to 200,000 residents now. I'll have to look, I think we have close to 90,000 point addresses. But we'll be able to see that here in a minute, because I'm gonna create a CarryMap and show you how it's built from start to finish.
And the other, this is a question for me, I posted to everybody, but I didn't hear anything back. Would everybody like to take maybe a 10 to 15 minute break, starting at like 10:15? You know, email check and stuff like that, bathroom break, coffee cup filler. Well, do we want to plan on doing that at 10:15 and start back up at 10:30? How's that sound?
Sound like a plan?
Okay, let's do it.
Okay. Awesome. Okay, so here, I'm going to go ahead and switch now and switch to the iPad. Start mirroring. This thing is awesome. Here we go. If I can get this thing to sync up. Here we go. Oh, there we go. I got to click share. Here we go.
Scott,
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry. Are we in a break?
Oh, no, not yet. And
Oh.
what did he say? Didn't you say 11:10, Pete? Or 11:15? Maybe everybody ran away. I don't know.
I was thinking 10:15 our time.
10:15. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Which is
I'm sorry.
11:15 your time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, thanks.
Okay. Yeah. So can everybody see this? So this is where I think the addressing, going out and using this for addressing is going to really hit for y'all. So let's go ahead and open up. Actually, I already had CarryMap open. Close. So this is a rural water system that I'm actually on the board for, and we are currently mapping this. Let me show you how. So like I was talking to you before about geo packages, you can set domains and bring in. So if you notice, there's no valves on this map whatsoever, but I can come in here. If you notice, I added at the very top, I added a control valve. And now, wish I had a pointer on my iPad. I can come in here now and click this button over to the left. That's just add a point. The cool thing about this tool right here is I can take a photo and it will take the GPS point from where I'm standing and the photo and it'll create a point, or I can click the point and it tells me, it asks, do I want to create a control valve, or I can just create a random point that would just create like a shapefile, and it would be, here, I'll do both of them. I want to do a control valve, and I'm going to create one. Let's go here, point, create, put the object on the map. I clicked on the map. Oh, I didn't click on the map there. There we go. Now I'm going to come down here. And so if you have domains built into these geo features, which we're going to look at earlier or here in a minute, you notice we have the point there, and you could just collect that point and it would give you just some description information, or you could take a photo or add attachment to that point. But here, if you click install date, it gives you a date and a time. You can actually go to a location description and type in whatever you want. You can click on a diameter. Say it's a 3-inch line. Go back, valve type. It gives you what type valve. So all of these domains were built in on the front end. And then hit create, and it automatically drops a point in there. And if you click here, oh, wow. I haven't used that one in a while. But if you notice, you can turn on and off meters. It's the same functionality. So this tool, let me show you how this one works and just kind of go over these tools before I go over anything else. Go from the tools at the top with the 3 lines. You can click those 3 lines. You can add in data. If you have, if you're noticing, I have done a lot of projects and I have not wiped this thing out. Say I was working on fittings or hydrants or meters or pumps or votes, like we talked about before, 2020 geo package. I could add that voter, and it's just a drop down whether they're going to vote on you or not, vote for you, or whether or not you want to put a sign out there. Tornado damage points. And I can add any of those geo packages, which in theory, a geo package is nothing more than a shapefile that we have packaged up using the CarryMap application and then added it in as an additional layer to edit from. But if you look, you've got, so here's your table of contents. You can turn things on and off. You can come in and add a base map. So if you're connected to the web, I could turn on imagery and hit OK because it's not the same coordinate system, which it never is. And now we have, we have the imagery under our map as it's working. You have to be connected to pull this in like that, unless you already have the imagery in. You can come in and turn off your world imagery. You can bookmark certain places. So here in your settings, it's kind of cool. I kept it as feet, miles, and acres versus meters and kilometers. And then I come down here and you've got your coordinate system. You can change your icons for your location and your push pin. And you can come in here every now and then and clear your cache, which is good. It makes your map move a little faster. I like this show your location accuracy. So when you are connected to an R2 unit or an R1 or a bad elf or any GPS device you have, you can visualize your accuracy, which I'm not connected to anything. I'm sitting inside, so I can't really demo that for you. But let me go ahead. We've got about 6 minutes. I will show you this other application real quick. So the bottom left will let you toggle between projects. So I just finished a project with the city of Grapevine, which is around the DFW airport. And so this is for addresses, right? They wanted me to come in and help them field verify every address. And I want to tell you, their GIS administrator sat down and thanked me afterwards. She was like, I've never ridden every road in my area. And it was just so enlightening to actually see that because I'm stuck behind a computer all day. So she drove and I sat there with a computer, and you can see the track is the blue line. We click this track button underneath the search button at the top left, and we tracked ourselves. And once that thing is active, you notice it automatically came to where I am here, which is way away. Let me go. Okay. So it pinpointed me. So now I want to get back to my map, right? There's not a home button like there is on the Windows version, but there is. If you come in here, you can come and click those 3 dots next to Grapevine, Texas, right here, and hit zoom to map, and it will bring you back. And if you notice, I took their 3-inch imagery. This is 3-inch imagery. Look how fast it works. And it's completely on this iPad. And I mean, I'm moving just as fast as you can. And if you notice, so the little points that we dropped, I dropped a point on each one of these apartment complexes because that was the building number of the apartment complex. Anything that's yellow was something that I didn't field verify, but that I collected either from parcel data or previous point addresses and populated that information. We just drove down every road and field verified that the address was correct. So if you notice, I mean, there are very few changes that have to be made. You know, there was nothing there. That was one lot. So we deleted that address out of the system. This address was in the system as 20, well, hold on, let's zoom in, was 2625, but it was really supposed to be 2623. It's the little things that you never know. Somebody might have fat fingered when they were putting it in the parcel data or the point address data previously. And what I tell people that use like the 911 application that we were looking at, I tell them that, you know, you are essentially, if you're a 2-man, 3-man GIS shop, you're empowering every first responder by using that, by using the application. Let me zoom up real quick. Everybody, whenever I do training, and I do training quite often for this map right here, I tell them that if you zoom into an area and you see that an address is wrong or there's an address missing, what they're to do is click on those 3 lines at the top. They go to About Map, and they immediately click My Email, which opens up their email on their phone, and they send me an update. Or they'll email it and send delete draft, or they have the option, they have other people's emails they can send, or they can call me. Either way, that way I have close to 650 first responders in this county total that are using the application and field verifying point addresses, hydrant locations, and ownership information every day. They're running calls all day long. Trying to think. So here, this is a cool little thing. They just brought this up. You can come in here and now draw. You can draw on the map, mark it up, save it. And what it does is it saves it as a layer at the top, those 3 buttons. So there's your map marks. You can change them. You can show all marks, or you can remove them and get them out of there. But where first responders come in, you know, you might type in up here, I'll type in Savage Road. You notice it gives you your point addresses, your roads, and then anybody that has a name Savage. So we're going to zoom to Savage Road. And say they need to find out where the closest hydrant is, right? They can click here and measure with just 2 seconds and say, it's 1,559 feet. It would not be advantageous for them to drop a large diameter hose from that hydrant to where the fire is actually going on, because we only have 1,000 feet of large diameter hose on the truck. They'd never make it, you know. But if it was another house, they might be able to. Let's close this out. What time is it? It's 11:15. I'll show you one more thing and then we'll be done. So if you click a point on the map, this is cool for first responders. If you swipe up, you notice it gives you your decimal degrees. And if you click on the decimal degrees, it gives you degrees, minutes, seconds. A helicopter coming to rescue you is not going to want decimal degrees. We're probably going to want that as firefighters, but they're reading navigation maps and they're based off of degrees, minutes, and seconds. So if you're communicating over a radio, I like that you can be able to toggle between those two things. Very, very good for a first responder. But anyway, let's go ahead and take a break because I'm going to get some more go-go juice. And I guess we'll meet back here at 10:30.
That sounds like a plan. Let's plan on that. Everybody
Awesome.
check your email. Some logistics. I hope you all know where your own restroom is. That was a joke. We'll see you guys back at 10:30.